Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chase Down Block here on the Chase Thomas podcast, the NBA specific theme show with my good friend of Swish Theory, of Basketball Intelligence, of everywhere else, Roundball Ramble. It's my favorite NBA writer, and he should be your favorite too, Corban Ford. Corban, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. Good evening to you.
We have a lot to talk about. Like, it's funny, in the last 2 weeks, so we were not able to go last week, and right? Or was it 2 weeks? I don't remember which one.
I think it was 2 weeks ago we weren't able to go.
Okay, it's 2 weeks. We did last week. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes it even crazier because last week we recorded, and then after last week we have some gigantic moves that go down that we're going to parse through here on this edition of the program, sir. And I want to start in terms of when you look at what's all happened now, because one of the nice things that Joe Cronin did, because he's a fan of this very show, Corban Ford, as you well know, is that he was like, you know what, let's go ahead and make sure that I've moved Jrue Holiday and Damian Lillard both before this podcast so that they have every move, every asset is complete, and that we can decipher what Portland did and whether or not it was enough. Because as much people are diving into whether or not the Bucks or the Celtics are now the best team in the East, I think a more fascinating question is, did Portland ultimately get enough for Damian Lillard? And do you include the Jrue Holiday flip into the Damian Lillard trade as a whole? Because if you do, I mean, I think Portland did really, really well here. Do you agree that Portland got enough for Damian Lillard? And were you surprised by ultimately what Damian Lillard went for?
For the first part, I completely agree. I think Portland got really, really good with their return. I do count Jrue Holiday as part of that because they took Jrue Holiday knowing they could parlay that into getting more assets in return. So definitely think that was all by design. Really good job by Portland there for sure. To go with your first point about what you just asked. I got the second part right and then missed the first part.
Oh, were you surprised that he?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I expected a return. I figured, and I thought, I didn't think that only Miami Heat fans seem to have thought they're the only team that had the market for Damian Lillard, because like what they had to offer is a poo-poo platter. It wasn't good enough for Dame. It wasn't even good enough for Jrue Holiday, and Jrue Holiday isn't a horrible player, but he's not Dame Lillard. In the same package, wouldn't work either way. Like, Miami Heat fans wanted to make themselves, and I get it, it's a special state of fan delusion. Like, we're the only team that can make an offer. No. If we've seen anything in NBA history the last couple of years, the team that ends up getting the player is not the team that people had in mind or the player wanted to go. It's always a wild card. In this case, Milwaukee's a better wild card than another random team, but it's still a wild card. No one saw Paul George being traded from Indiana to Oklahoma City. No one saw Kawhi Leonard going from San Antonio to Toronto. Like, these moves are moves that the team's going to try to find the best assets they have. There's plenty of other examples, but those are two, like, notable ones, in the past, 6 years. So, like, that is kind of what I'm getting at with it. In this case, yes, Milwaukee, great landing spot ultimately, but no one had Milwaukee up there. No one did. So, yeah, I think looking at what Portland got, though, yeah, I mean, they got bigger. They got younger. They got future assets down the line. Like, Portland did tremendous. Ricky O'Donnell had put a list of all of the assets. I'm sure he's the only one. A lot of people put a list of all the assets that Portland have gotten back for Lillard so far. But you got Milwaukee's 2029 unprotected first-round pick. Boston's 2029 unprotected first-round pick. You have unprotected swap rights with Milwaukee both in 2028 and 2030. You have DeAndre Ayton. You have Robert Williams. You have Malcolm Brogden. You have the Golden State Warriors 2024 first-round pick. And you have recent second-round pick Toumani Camara. And that's to say nothing about what they're probably ultimately going to get for both Malcolm Brogden, who doesn't really fit with Portland at all, and I think some team will give a first rounder for, or even Robert Williams, who, yes, like, young, fits, like, contract-wise, and we're 8 and not on the team. I would love Robert Williams there. But between the two of them, I think you could definitely get a nice little mini haul for Williams as well. So this isn't even finished yet, and I think that Portland's already big winners.
Yeah, I think part of me really feels like you should keep Brogdon if he's good with it. Like, it comes down to whether or not you have that conversation with Malcolm Brogdon, because look, the guy has struggled staying healthy. I don't know what his value, like, he was almost traded to the Clippers this summer, and that didn't happen because of injury related reasons. So I don't know. Like, Drew Holiday was an immediate flip, and that was immediately recognizable. But I think if you're Portland, I think you seriously consider Malcolm Brogdon sticking around at least for a year to help out the transition with Scoot Henderson being the lead ball handler right out of the gate here. It's not like they're loaded with veteran depth here. When you look at it, you have Jeremy Grant, who's been in the league for a long time. DeAndre Ayton's still pretty young. Robert Williams still pretty young. Shaden Sharp, obviously really young. I guess Matisse Thybulle is going to be an important vet with this group, but you have Shaden Sharp, who's one of the youngest players in the NBA. Anthony Simons, who came in super young, so he is extremely young still. So I don't know. It's just such a young core of guys now that I just feel like Malcolm Brogdon, you need guys like Malcolm Brogdon on this team, and if he's good with it, I mean, I love the people who are theoretically just putting him still on the Clippers and like that solves, but like, he might not play crunch time with the Clippers. I don't know if the Clippers can want to go down that rabbit hole and bet on Brogdon, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George all being healthy at the same time. I don't know if that's or what his value is. You mentioned a first. I don't know if I don't think anyone should trade a first round pick for Malcolm Brogdon at this point.
I think a team would, especially pending health. I think a team would do that. Malcolm Brogdon is still a very good player. Like, injuries have been up and down for the Clippers, I think would. I think a contending team or want-to-be contending team that thinks that, showing up their guard depth will be big could possibly do it. There might be some protections on it or something like that, but you're going to get something from Malcolm Brogdon. And I don't know. I could see where you're coming from. I don't completely agree, only because, like, yes, Portland is a young team, but a lot of these guys, I mean, Simon's on his second contract. Shane Sharp are going to be looking at pretty soon. I mean, obviously, we've got Scoot Henderson. These guys kind of need the ball. Yeah. You kind of need to see what they can do with the ball. And Malcolm Brogdon is not an older player like that. Like, yes, he's a veteran player, but he's not like in his mid to late 30s. He's very much in his prime when healthy, able to play, and he will play. And yes, if you have him alongside your backcourt, your team marginally does better. I don't think that's what Portland wants to do to begin with. But if you're doing that, yes, like Simons, yes, he's a younger player because he came in the league young, but he's assumed a bigger role for Portland. And now with Damian Lillard out the way, he can fully, assume more usage. If you bring back Brogdon in, that kind of gets halved a little bit. I think you want to see what Scoot does with the ball. I mean, yes, it's going to take a while for him to grow. I think Portland's fine with that, given the assets they have coming down the line and their own, to let him grow into that. Shane Sharp, same thing. He's going to kind of need the ball. Like, I don't want Portland to become what Houston seems to have become. We have these young guys, and yes, you want to have some vets in the room, and you have some older players on the roster. You still have Jeremy Grant. But, like, Houston has now added so many vets. You have Fred VanVleet. Okay, that's one thing, right? And then you come in with Dylan Brooks. Okay, that's another. Now you just picked up Reggie Bullock. Like, okay, at this rate, these guys are not old. Like, they are ready to play. And if they're playing, that means your young guys aren't playing. And time still marches on. I mean, you still want to see what Jalen Green got. You still want to see what, like, you're impacting their role, all for what? For a marginal improvement? Like, this Houston Rockets team is still going to be a 10th seed.
But I think part of the problem with Houston, when you say the last 2 years, has been they don't have a lot of vets in the room. Like, they don't have a lot of good vets to help out.
Oh, no, you're right. And I don't mean to say lean the other way, just do young guys. Like, just doing young guys recipe for disaster. But if you're trying to, like, see what these guys have, you want to have some vets in the room. Like, what about vets? Like, okay, who keeps pining for a role? Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas it's almost comical, except it's not. He's like, hey, they need some vets in the room, this or that. Like, you want a vet who's going to challenge and can challenge for playing time, but isn't going to come in with the assumption that those minutes are his.
Solomon Hill. Hawks have missed him the last 2 years. Missed Solomon Hill.
Garrett Temple's been on rosters for years. Garrett Temple's not coming for a starting job, but Garrett Temple is going to set an example. Garrett Temple could still play if given the opportunity. And Garrett Temple's an old head in the room. I think they need more of those guys, not guys who are like really trying to find their way and say, oh, this is my time. Because you think these players coming in their prime are like, oh, I'm going to just kind of foster for the next generation takeover. No, they're very much trying to get the next contract too.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at all of it now, DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, like you said, the 2024 Warriors first round pick, which is top 4 protected. They're going to get that one. That's going to convey this year. The 2028 Bucks pick swap, 2029 Bucks first round pick, 2029 Celtics first round pick, and then a 2030 Bucks swap. I mean, that's really, really good. And we've seen, like, over Corbin as fellow NBA super fans, but you're more of a connoisseur of NBA history. Like, these kind of trades don't usually go well for the team that's trading them. Like the Dwight Howard trades and guys like that in the past, when you are moving these guys, especially with Dame's age, his position, this, that, and the other, and his trade demand, only wanting to go to Miami. I think it was unbelievable to me that Portland got the haul that they did. I think this is a home run, a combination home run hitter for Joe Cronin, because you get Drew Holiday in the deal too, that you can flip for even more assets. I think you're just set up, especially those Bucks picks to me, I think are going to be more of a better gamble than the Celtics, because the Bucks are just, Giannis can still leave. Like Giannis can still, if this doesn't go well this year, he can still just be like, or he doesn't enjoy playing with Damian Lillard. We don't know. Does Chris Middleton fall off a cliff injury wise? And it just looks, yeah. And then they just traded for Damian Lillard. That would be the saddest situation, is if Milwaukee is just stuck with like 35-year-old Damian Lillard and Giannis is gone and Damian Lillard's just back where he was basically these last 2 years in Portland all over again. But I don't know. I think it was great. And I also, just the people who are like, oh, the Heat's package was better. I never got that. And I don't think Tyler Hero fit this group. I don't think it kind of speaks to what you were talking about. They have too many young guys. They have too many young guys who need the ball. They have too many guys on this roster who just kind of overlap with what Tyler Hero is good at. They got guys like Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton who fill some major needs. You move off from Yusuf Nurkic, who's a little older, and you get younger and more athletic and more interesting with Ayton and Robert Williams. Like that's a huge flip to go from Nurkic to those two guys. Like I think by and large, fit wise, picks wise, everything I think was better for Portland going this route. That I'm also glad, because we talked about on this podcast over the last month, Corbin. What did I say was my favorite one? I wanted Dame on the Bucks, because I wanted this kind of swing. I wanted to see Giannis with a final swing before with him laying the groundwork to leave. I want to see Milwaukee do stuff. Teams don't do this nearly enough, where they're like, we'll see what happens. We'll roll the dice. He likes Milwaukee. He likes the city. He's a loyal guy. And then they just stick with the status quo, and then they leave and they're like, oh, what happened? Well, they didn't do that. And I think John Horst deserves a bunch of credit in Milwaukee for pulling the trigger, because if Giannis leaves, at least you got one title and you took another big swing at the tail end of his time in Milwaukee. And if best case scenario, you get another title and he still leaves. Like there's just no downside to this if you're John Horst and you're the Milwaukee Bucks, right?
Yeah. No, I got to say, and I got to take it back. When I said no one saw this coming, you definitely hoped that it would happen, So that is big. But no, I agree. I think you have to give Milwaukee credit. I mean, give them credit in general. When Giannis first started making noise a couple years ago, they swung the trade and brought in Drew Holiday, won a championship that year. Yeah. Now he starts making rumbles. Literally, if he does so much to sneeze, Milwaukee's front office like, which is something to be said for that. Other front offices either don't do that or fail miserably. And Milwaukee, especially for a quote unquote smart market team, for them to go, hey, we're going to make the move to satisfy our, centerpiece and really put ourselves in contention for a championship. Finances be damned. Like there is something to be said for that, and credit to them for doing that. And in a league that, we always want teams to go for the swing and be competitive and everything. And small markets, they have certain, go for it. Do what you can. And they've done that. And they have a team now that's on paper pretty formidable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Flipping it to Miami though, Corbin, what do they do now in your estimation? Do they just go Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, run it back? Because remember, this is a play-in team last year. And I think this roster, you can make the case, is worse. They lost a lot of important Heat guys that they developed, like the Gabe Vincents of the world. I don't know. Part of me just, I don't know what the pivot is. Bradley Beal's already been moved. Damian Lillard's now been moved. Drew Holiday doesn't wind up in Miami. Kyle Lowry comes out as looking like the starting point guard going into next year. I don't know. I think Miami, I really have no idea what they can do next to get out of this hole, and just kind of betting on another finals run with this group. I don't see it. I mean, I didn't see it last year, but to do it back to back, Jimmy getting older, I don't see it, and I don't know what the way around it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they have no choice. I mean, at this point, everyone that's available, do you make a play for Malcolm Brogdon? Like it just kind of keeps getting worse. You went for Damian Lillard, that failed. Then you probably went for Drew Holiday, but then that failed. Do you now go for Malcolm Brogdon? I think you have some level of respect for your franchise, right? At the same time, you lose two key rotation players. Like there's no way that Miami got better. I mean, Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were very solid players for them during their run to the finals.
Yeah.
You don't lose those two and go, yeah, we're great. Like that's not how it works. So I don't know. I think that is definitely a step back for them. Like, is it a far step back? I don't know. I think it made the case for them being a 3-4 seed. Depending on how you feel about Philadelphia. I mean, right now, Milwaukee and Boston are a clear tier of their own. After that, I probably put Philly and Boston, depending on what you think about those two. And then after that, I feel like it's anybody's game. So, like, did they take a big step down? No, they're not in the dregs of the East. At the same time, are they? I didn't think they're going to make the finals last year, but I don't think they're definitely going to make the finals this year. Like, there's some real issues there. And I don't know. Maybe Kyle Lowry can reach back into the swings of youth one more time, but at going on age 37, color me surprised if that happens.
Yeah, I think some people throughout the Bulls, like, do you target Levine? He just doesn't feel like a Heat culture guy, and we got the Heat culture uniforms, which are just oof. Very cringe.
They need to stop with these. These new city uniforms need to.
They're all bad, right? I haven't seen one good one yet.
One has been good, and it's like, who are you? You don't have to do this. Like, take a breather, let it sit for a minute. No more. That and the All-Star jerseys. In fact, I'm gonna take this for a second, Chase, and just say this. I think that teams need to go back to wearing their own jerseys in the All-Star game.
Oh, I agree with this.
Yeah, I just want to see it. Like, get back to it. You represent the team. I think it was fun seeing the '97, playoffs. Yeah, playoffs. I keep saying playoffs. All-Star game, and you had Jordan's Bulls jersey and Kobe's Lakers jersey, and all these other cats like in different jerseys. And you always get that one random player from one random team that they're there. Like, oh wow, the Raptors were represented in the '90s. Whatever the case may be. Like, it's always fun to see. That's what I want. But no, city jerseys, let them rest. At this point, they're derivatives of classic jerseys that have already happened, and they're not nearly as good, and it's just kind of stupid. Go back to wearing the classic jerseys.
I don't disagree. I think my gut tells me they waited out for Toronto. And Pascal feels like a Heat guy. OG feels like a Heat guy. They just sit to see what happens there. Obviously, Scotty Barnes is not on the market, but I would not be surprised to see them jump into one of those type deals. Maybe OG being the more likely, but my gut tells me that's where they end up going as a pivot.
OG? Who do they trade for OG? I mean, they're not. Tyler Hero he's not that guy. Like, he hasn't worked for literally any other team they've offered him to. I don't think he works in Toronto either.
I mean, it's not bad though. Like, and I'm not even saying it's going to happen. My gut just tells me that's where they pivot and that's where they start calling and start looking to is Toronto. Because those feel like Miami guys. I could see any of those guys flourishing in Miami's game and Miami welcoming them. I mean, the best case scenario is Zion, where you sit on the Zion watch and you're just we just put Zion in our building. We can fix this.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to have players. I mean, Jaime Jaquez and Nicole.
I mean, Bam Adebayo is a good trade.
Bam, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's gonna be one of those other guys. It's gonna be a Bam or it's gonna be a Jimmy. Like, I'm sorry.
No, it's Bam. Like, you have to do Bam. It's Bam.
No, I'm saying it like the level of player. It's definitely no way it's gonna be Jimmy. Why would he do that when they're doing it to pair with Jimmy? It has to be Bam. But the point is, like, Tyler Hero as your baseline guy is not enough. Yeah. It's just not enough. And you're going to need players in addition to your pick package to get those players. And Tyler Hero, I mean, I don't even think that works for Zion. I think New Orleans still wants more. But, I mean, I think they're more in terms of a better player. You know what I mean? I mean, you get a Bam guy, you get a guy.
That's a good haul for a superstar in today's market. It's a good haul.
Bam is right now the second, like, his offensive game has not progressed to the level that you would look at as like a secondary player. And if he goes to New Orleans,
he's consistent.
Exactly what he is.
You can count on him, especially as their guy, a playoff minute.
If I'm trading Zion, who his only knock has been health. When Zion's there,
that's not his only knock. That's not Zion's only knock.
What would you say is the only knock?
Well, I mean, there's some off the court stuff that.
There's
some other.
The off the court stuff is more like National Enquirer fodder than actual team distraction.
I'm just saying, like what came out this week that he's finally taking. Well, what came out this week that he's finally taking being in shape seriously? Is that what came out this week?
That came out this week from noted talks out of both sides of his mouth, David Griffin. Like, I am not how David Griffin executive. The same guy. No, David Griffin. You
cannot stand David Griffin.
No.
You've talked about it on this podcast. Like, Corbin's the nicest human I've ever met, and he absolutely despises David Griffin. It's wild to hear.
He feels like one of those guys who would talk about you behind your back. And say something totally different while playing nice to your face. Like, I mean, from what the reports that have come out already have not been flattering by him over just like the last couple of years in New Orleans. Look at the way he's constructed his roster. Look at the fact he didn't take any blame
We
for
can't do
himself.
this again because I told you they have an amazing
You did.
15-man roster. We've already done it. I'm like, he did everything right. It just doesn't matter because Zion doesn't play.
One playoff appearance. If you have an amazing roster, you definitely make the playoffs more than once. You'll be the Clippers if you have an amazing roster, because the Clippers have their star players injured, but they always get to the second round or whatever. Pelicans got there one time. And if all their hopes are on Zion Williamson, then they don't have a great roster. If all your hopes are on one player. I'm sorry, you have CJ McCollum, you have Brandon Ingram, you have Trey Murphy, you have Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado.
But you're making my point. They have all these dudes, and he's drafted well. He's developed well. He's done all.
But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm playing devil. Like, I'm saying, if that's the case and all these guys are good, like, this is good roster construction.
Yeah.
Then it should hinge on one player, which it absolutely does. They went from the best team in the NBA to literally fighting for a playoff spot because Zion got injured. That speaks to the talent of Zion. And that speaks to a kind of a weakness for the team construction side. In my opinion, not enough outside shooting. They're all dependent on Zion.
That's fair.
But anyway, you like you said, this is me going on my David Griffin. You know, the one way to get me fired up, mention David Griffin.
There you go. I like it, man.
I'm sorry, Jason. I had to bring the heat there.
I like it. Your favorite NBA sophomore, Corban, that you want to the good folks to keep an eye on this year? Who's your favorite NBA sophomore going into this year?
Oh, Jabari Smith Jr. Easy.
Ooh, why?
I think in the second half of the season, he definitely improved. Second half of last season, he improved. Like his first half of the rookie year was pretty bad. I think we can all admit that there's nothing there. But like most rookies aren't super great. I think he just came in as like one of the best shooting big men. You know, all the things we could bring defensively, get switch, like really good shooter. The college line and the NBA 3-point line is a big difference. Like, you shot from one, I'm sure I've shot. Like, it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment. You go from being on the best of, a shorter line to having to take those same type of shots from further on. It's not great. And also, I think he took too many threes to start with. Like, you got an acclimated to it not going so much. But I think he got more comfortable as the year went on. Game winner, good defensive plays, a couple 20-point games here and there. Then he had tremendous summer league. I enjoy, like, he was too good for summer league, which is what you want to see from those types of players. I think now you're in a position where, hey, he could be an ultimate stretch 5. He could be that, or stretch 4. I mean, depending on how you feel about App and Şengün. But, like, he's going to get the time. Unlike Şengün, he has good defensive versatility and potential, I think, on that end. And offensively, he can stretch it out. He can shoot. He's a shooter. So I really look for him to be more comfortable, another year in the books. Again, after what he had summer league, after what he had in the second half of the season, confidence-wise, that helping as well. And him really having a really big second year for the Houston Rockets.
Interesting. I wouldn't have had this for you. Jabari Smith Jr., I think it's going to be interesting to see how he blends, because like a lot of these guys, you don't see this very often where a team go draft super high. Jabari Smith Jr. obviously in play for the #1 overall pick in last year's draft. Watched him a lot at Auburn. A lot of talent. The most common comp was Rashard Lewis coming out, but I think he has better handles, and I think he actually has more upside, especially defensively, than Rashard Lewis. But Rashard was great. People forget, like, number 2 player on a NBA Finals team. And then obviously me growing up watching a lot of late night Sonics games with him and Ray Allen. But I'm fascinated to see how he works with Fred VanVleet, how he works with Amen Thompson, because it's going to be a young backcourt. Kevin Porter Jr. Already played his last game for the Houston Rockets, as he should.
The NBA, probably.
Yeah. Well, hold on. There are some players on certain rosters right now that led me to believe that that's probably not going to be the case, even if it should be the case.
But here's the thing, and I will say that I agree with you, but I think all those teams affect their incumbent team. Like, if you look at, like, the exception of Josh Primo, but I don't know what's going on there. But, like, if you look at Miles Bridges, Charlotte's retaining him. Houston, this team is saying we're done. And mind you, before this incident even happened, you already had a little bit of a mini rap sheet on Mr. Porter Jr. But I digress. I'm with you. I can see what you mean. I don't have any hope in the NBA. I just think that he's already worn out his welcome before he did this. Like, this is the straw that broke the camel's back.
I just wonder how much his development hindered by how good this team is. The best thing for him, the best case for him being the most interesting sophomore is Ime Udoka, right? Like, what can he get out of him? Like, that kind of jump from Steven Silas to Ime Udoka, what does that mean? What kind of jump does that mean? I think he's also going to get the opportunities, right? Like, you look at the big depth here. You mentioned Sengun. You got Jock Landale, but, like, he's not going to be a heavy minutes guy. You have Tari Eason. He'll be in the rotation. Jeff Green, I think, will be in the rotation. I also think that's a sneaky great bet to add for Jabari Smith. Like, Jeff Green obviously just won a championship with Denver. He came home and buzzed his hair. So shout out to Jeff Green for fighting the good fight there for as long as he could. But I think that will be something sneaky to watch, because when you think around the league, like guys who would really who would have been perfect to pair Jabari Smith with like which vets, I think Jeff Green's like right up there as like an all-time great vet opportunity for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's someone who will teach him kind of how things go. Again, this is the kind of vet I think other teams should have. This is the kind of vet I would look at in general. Like he's somebody who isn't going to he's someone that Portland could use.
Yeah.
He isn't going to challenge you for your starting spot, but he can start, he can play. He's not totally cooked. He can still produce on the floor, but it's really the value he provides behind the scenes. How to prep as an NBA player, how to get your body right, how to get your mind right, different things on the floor to see from his years of experience. And I agree with you. Jeff Green, I think, is a perfect guy. 4, 5. I think Jeff Green came to the NBA more like a 3, but the point being like a forward type player. Jabari's always been a better shooter, but Jeff Green definitely can put the ball on the floor better. Both defensively are pretty solid. Like, I think he definitely can, give some tips and tricks behind the scenes, in addition with Coach Ime Udoka, and of course the improving talent that he has. So yeah, Houston's a weird, fertile ground for young players to develop. I just like what I've seen so far from Jabari and feel like he's in a marginally better position with which to flourish now as a young guy.
There you go. I like it. Corban, new face, new place. One guy who changed teams that you're excited about how he fits in. We continue our series here. Who do you have next that you're excited about this player being on a new team?
Ooh, this was really, really interesting for me. You know what? I'm going to go with 2 guys.
Okay.
Actually. And this would be Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr.
Oh, wow.
We're
really going deep here.
Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr. for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think both had solid seasons last year. I think that Shake definitely was kind of marginalized, in my opinion, in Philly, but he's a guy who, can shoot ball, can run point, can play shooting guard. I like Troy Brown. Troy Brown, kind of average shooter. But we forget Troy Brown played a lot more on ball in college. He played a little bit on ball going to NBA. He's made some nice reads and some good passes with the Lakers in stretches where he has a little bit more than 3-and-D role he's being pigeoned into, right? I think that these guys are definitely role players, but I think when you have a Minnesota team that needs some juice off the bench, I think that helps them, because if you look at their backcourt, like Mike Conley's there, obviously Anthony Edwards, the straw stirs the drink, but who's going to run that offense? Who's going to be that firepower off the bench? I like what Troy Brown brings from both sides of shooting and playing defense. I really think he's in for a better shooting season this upcoming year. And I think Shake Milton can get some real room to make things happen in Minnesota. So those are the 2 that I'm looking at. And one other guy, why not? He was already there, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Ooh.
Like, there's a wide range of players here at that shooting guard, combo guard position that I think can really do a good job of playing a combo guard role, a point guard role, a shooting guard position, small forward. You got a little bit of off the bounce offensive creation. You have a little bit of defensive intense. I like the mix there. So really, really happy with the guys they have. I think it could be a very interesting bench. But yeah, a little bit of a deep take, but I just like the way they're formed. I guess the right kind of guys around Rudy Gobert and a Karl Anthony Towns and a Naz Reid and these other bigs. I just think that these are some good guards to play off of them.
Okay. What do you think because Troy Brown is interesting too. But I think Shake for me is the most fascinating. What do you think is his best NBA skill? Why do you think he'll be in the league for like 15 years? Because it feels like he will.
I don't want to say instant offense, but I think Shake can get hot pretty quickly. If you say a microwave, I would call Shake Milton a tea kettle. Like, it'll take a second, but he'll get going. He shot career best 37. Well, not a career best, but higher volume, 37% from 3 last season. They give you about 10 points and 3 rebounds, 3 assists per game. I think he's someone that can get to his shot. And I just like the way he's able to produce quickly. I mean, his Instagram's called Sniper Shake. I don't know if he's a sniper quite yet, but he's a career 36% 3-point shooter. That's not horrible.
Yeah.
Actually pretty decent, right? His volume could definitely increased. He literally took less than 2 a game last year. So not super great at all. Yeah, like 56 for 148, not super great. But in general, I don't have a doubt that he can't shoot. I have a doubt that he can't score. And as somebody there, run the pick and roll, be a threat to score out the pick and roll, be someone who can make at least simple reads, and be someone that you have to pay attention to. Like, fine, put him next to a Jared Bayless type guard, Like, not someone who's going to be super great, knock down, set the world on fire, but a solid player that you have to defend.
Yeah. God, I have not heard the name Jared Bayless in a really long time. I liked him a lot coming out of Arizona.
Yeah, I told you, it's deep take over here. You know how it is on this side.
Jared Bayless. How long has he been out of the league?
At least 6 years.
Is it really? How old is Jared Bayless?
That feels a little long, but I feel like it's 2018, 2019 he last played. I want to say 2018, 2019 he last played. I'm looking right now just to double check. Yep, I nailed it. 2018, 2019 played with Minnesota. Ironic.
That's wild. It's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
Good player. 11th overall.
Yeah, he made himself a 10-year NBA career.
That's good.
He came in at 20, played till 30.
Yeah, he had a couple years where he shot like 43% from three. No, Jared Bayless, that was my prime blogging years. So I have a lot of Jared Bayless, remembering some guys. I remember being in a lot of fights about Ramon Sessions is actually bad. Laker fans, that one year where they talked themselves into Ramon Sessions, those were tough times.
Trust me, I didn't like that year. I had to, but I didn't like it.
No? What about Kareem Rush?
No, it wasn't. When you wouldn't take a shot outside of 20 feet, that's when I knew that it was a problem. Kareem Rush, not bad. He could shoot. Couldn't do a whole lot more, but he could shoot. Like wasn't with the Lakers long. But I think he won a game for the Lakers. Game 6, 2004 Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hit 6 threes.
I love that.
If I remember that correctly.
There you go. Final thing here tonight, Corban. Pacers unveiled their new starting five. And I want to get your perspective on how you think this will actually work on the court. And do you think this is sustainable for the course of the full year? And do you think this is the best five the Pacers and Rick Carlisle should be running? Tyrese Haliburton, Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, and Miles Turner. What do you think?
I like it. I would rather have Bruce Brown come off the bench.
Mm. Who would you replace him with? Buddy Hield?
Probably until I let him go. Even Jarace Walker.
It's a lot early.
But honestly, I was gonna say that is a lot early. I mean, Buddy Hield for me is like I would put him out there, but I'm shopping him. Jarace Walker is probably like I like that team. Like I'm only changing it for the sake of having a guy like him come off the bench. Like it's not for anything like Brown, not a player better than Brown or anything. It's just having a player like Brown to give that energy and juice off the bench. That's what I would like. But honestly, no, I think it's interesting on shooting. Bruce Brown's an iffy shooter. Obi Toppin's an iffy shooter. But I like Benedict Mathurin. I like Miles Turner. Yeah, I think it's good. Defensively, I wonder how Obi Toppin holds up. It's kind of an issue. Now you won't play him before. Miles Turner's going to be busy in the back end, I'll tell you that. But aside from that, no, I think it's a decent starting five. Like, there's some balance there. I guess Buddy Hield's your sniper off the bench until he's moved, if he is moved. And yeah, I think you have at least some decent balance up and down. A little light on shooting, a little different on defense, but ultimately pretty good.
What do you think Benedict Mathurin last year? What kind of player? Do you think he has star potential? Is he best player on a contender, second best player on a contender? Where are you at, Benedict?
I'm feeling more second best player.
Okay.
Maybe he improves some more on ball, in terms of playing, playing his passing reads and, playing on the pick and roll, that sort of thing. Right now, he's a very good, I think, potential of being a very good offensive and defensive player. But maybe he'd be a two-way wing of the Paul George ilk, even maybe of the Kawhi ilk, kind of moving forward as he grows more to his game. And then you have a different thing totally on your hands. But I definitely want to see more of that on ball. I don't think there's a whole lot there for him as it stands right now.
Where are you at with Tyrese?
Oh, I like Tyrese. From one ugly jumper fan to another, I have respect for those who can make a shot that looks weird but goes in. His passing is great. He's shown they could be a lead guard. I thought he'd be more like a combo kind of guard coming in. And yeah, he could play the combo role, but I thought he would have to because his passing wouldn't be as great. And it's been amazing. He'd definitely be a lead guard. His scoring has been something that he can get into a shot when he wants to, and he can make that shot, and it works for him. I think he can be an all-star, and drive highly efficient offense. So definitely high on Tyrese myself.
I'm going to do a quick game here. This is a fun exercise with Tyrese. You ready?
I'm ready.
Right now, would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for Trae Young?
No.
Would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for Jalen Brunson?
No.
Would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for Cade Cunningham?
No. That's an interesting one, but I haven't seen enough from Cade yet.
Would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for LaMelo Ball?
Closer for me personally, but no.
Okay. Would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for Tyrese Maxey?
No. If Tyrese Maxey can be something like Tyrese Haliburton, I'd be happy for Philadelphia.
This might be the most tough. Would you trade Tyrese Haliburton for Darius Garland?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like Darius Garland. Small guard. Not super great defensively, but I mean, neither technically is Tyrese Haliburton. But, ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to say yes. But and I will say this before I say yes. I'm saying yes because I am partial to Darius Garland. I love me some Darius Garland. I think he gets a really good guard. I understand the size limitation. I understand he's never going to be good defensively. But I like his ability to I like his offensive ability. I like his floor game. I would personally have to really think hard about it. Let me say that. I don't know if I would trade him for Darius Garland, but I would definitely think long and hard about it. It would be a lot more difficult. Easily the most difficult decision of the guards you gave me.
I think I agree. The reason I asked you that, I think Tyrese Haliburton's the most valuable guard in the East. Like Damian Lillard, obviously, but he's 33. Like, it's just different. He's the vet. Like, I'm putting him in his own category. Like, obviously, Damian Lillard is the highest upside. Like, It just doesn't make any sense. You're not trading Tyrese Haliburton for Damian Lillard. I just think Tyrese Haliburton is probably the most untouchable lead young guard in the East. And I think once Dame exits prime, like, I think it's Tyrese's conference. Like, I think the best version of Tyrese Haliburton is the best point guard in the East.
There's two guys I'd like to make an argument for.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Dinwiddie and Kyle Lowry. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
I don't think people realize, like, the casual fan, because, like, you're not dialing in if you're a casual fan to a lot of Pacers games last year. But, like, he's someone you just have to watch. And I don't even think a lot of people understand that, like, he averaged 20, 10, and 3. Shot 40% from 3. I mean, he had an effective field goal percentage of 58. Obviously, a great free throw shooter, great passer. Getting better each and every year. His offensive rating last year, his first All-Star year, 129. Like, the offense is just he's just so good in so many different ways and can attack you and put pressure on defenses in so many different ways. I'm a big Haliburton guy. Like, I'm not saying he's the next Steve Nash, but I'm also not saying he's the next Steve Nash.
I like the way you did that. He's not that. We don't know. He's right now still a mystery box. Anything possible. Steve Nash will be Steve Nash till after 10:30.
But I don't even think he's that much of a mystery box. I think he's going to be a triple-double type guy who also shoots exceptionally well, and he's long. Like, it's just, I think his defense won't be that bad. Like, I just think there's just so much to like about Tyrese Haliburton at this point in his career, and he's only going to get better. Like, I'm pretty all in on Tyrese Haliburton in the East.
No, I'm with you. And you're right. I'm being a little dramatic. He's definitely someone I'm on board with for sure.
But I don't think if you had a casual basketball fan, like most basketball fans would be like, no, I'm taking Brunson over Tyrese. I'm taking Trae Young over Tyrese.
Exactly.
I'm taking Darius Garland. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like Brunson's in his prime already. Like not going to get much better than what he already is. I think that Tyrese has more to offer than Trae Young at this point. I'm with you. It was interesting. That's an interesting exercise. I like those for sure. Really kind of force you to put stock of players in real time. Yeah.
I think Tyrese has high stock. Corban Ford, what can the good folks check out from you across the internet this week?
Doing NBA division previews on Roundball Ramble. So we already did the Southwest Division, the Pacific Division, and the Atlantic Division. So those are out. Well, the Atlantic Division I have to put out soon, but those are out. Trying to ramp up NBA coverage as we get going here. And then inevitably, so will all the other projects come together because this is the time, Chase. This is where I become the basketball Chase Thomas. Because you don't take rest and don't take breaks, and once season starts, neither will I.
Well, there you go. I'm excited. Keep up the great work. Go subscribe to Roundball Ramble because the regular season will be here before you know it. Read Corban everywhere, and Corban Ford, I will talk to you next week.